Hey folks, welcome to lesson 1.8D. Tonight we're going to be evaluating some properties. We're going to got a review, we got our instructional video, got a 1 through 8 guided type of activity, and then I'm going to have you upload a worksheet and do the even numbers. So we're going to get a little techie tonight. Let's go ahead and start off with our review. Put that in the top right hand corner here. Go ahead and take 5 problems to, or take 5 minutes to solve these problems right here. I'll move myself out of the way so you can read them. Go ahead and pause it. All right, let's see if I can find a spot to hide myself here so I'm not in the way. All right, this first one here, well, 9 divided by 3 you have to do first because that's inside the parentheses, and that gives you 3. The next thing you have to do is that exponent. You've got 2 exponents, but do the first one. 3 cubed is not 9. It's 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. And then we can do the 5 squared. That's the next one. That becomes the 25. Then we've got addition here because it's just addition and subtraction left. So 27 plus 25, that's 52. And then you can just subtract 13. You got 39. It looks like a complicated problem. There are quite a few steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 6-stepper, but I mean, there's nothing that difficult in there. Use the distributive property to rewrite these. Okay, well, I actually could do 23 minus 2 is 21. I could do 8 times 21, but it says I have to rewrite them, so I did. I did 8 times 23, 8 times 2. I had 184 minus 16 equals 168. I think this way is harder, but they told me to rewrite it. That's what you got to do. This one here, rewriting this one is definitely easier for me. So 5 times 3 plus 5, well, 3 plus 5 is 8. 5 times 8 is 40. So in this case, it was more work. In this case, it saved me work. All right, Fernando pitched for 2 innings. He threw 60 pitches. Oh, this dude got shelled. Okay, he threw 27 pitches in the first inning, writing an equation that represents this situation. So let P stand for the number of pitches he threw in the second inning. So 27 plus some more pitches was equal to 60. All right, you are ready for your instructional video. I will see you when we are done. Thanks. Hey folks, welcome to another math video. Tonight we're going to be using the properties to evaluate expressions. Before we do that, let's start off with a trivia question. Who are these students? What do they have to do with this lesson? I'll give you the answer to that question. I will sing the answer to that question at the end of it. All right, so anyway, tonight officially our target is I can use the associative, commutative, and distributive properties to evaluate these expressions. Let's do this thing. Let's start off with just some targeted vocabulary that we've been talking about for the last 3 lessons. First of all, we got the old distributive property. That means we can break apart 3 times 2 plus 3 and write it as 3 times 2 plus 3 times 3. Or we can go vice versa. We can take this 3 times 2 plus 3 times 3, and we can take that 3 and put it out front and multiply it by the sum of 2 plus 3. The associative property. Remember what we can do with that? We can move the brackets around when multiplying or adding like this. 2 times 3 times 4 equals 2 times 3 times 4. Look at 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. All I did was move the brackets. Here I did 2 times 3 first. Here I'm going to do 3 times 4 first. I did the same thing here with addition. So if you have a string of digits that you're multiplying or a string of digits you're adding, you can group them however you want. It just doesn't matter. Commutative property, same thing. We can move the numbers around when multiplying and adding here. I put dividing, multiplying, and adding. Very simply, 3 times 4 is equal to 4 times 3. 2 plus 3 is equal to 3 plus 2. It just doesn't matter. In case you're wondering what movie that was from, it was from Meatballs, kind of a quirky movie. I don't know, the 80s. Ask your parents. All right, we're going to start right out of the chute today with a pause problem. Go ahead and use the properties or don't use the properties to evaluate this. Go ahead. Evaluate means solve. Well, if I were going to do this, I know that 12 plus 6 is 18, but I don't know what 4 times 18 is. But I do know that 4 times 12 is 48. I know that 4 times 6 is 24. And I do know that 48 and 24 are 72. What? Yeah, that's why I solved it. Some people might know that, it might be simpler for them to think, they know what 4 times 18 is. I didn't know what it was. So I distributed it out and it worked. All right. How about this one here? This one here. What? Now we're going to use multiple properties. Watch how I do this. Okay, so I have no idea how to solve this in my head. Yeah, I could do it with a calculator, but let's do it in our heads. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the associative property. I'm going to go over here and say, hey, I'm going to do 25 times 10 because I know that that's 250. Now I'm looking at 4 times 6 times 250. Okay, well, I don't know what 24 times 250 is, but I can use the commutative property and take and move that 250 over here, and I know that 4 times 250 is 1,000. Then I have 1,000 times 6. Slam bam, thank you, ma'am. 6,000. I used multiple properties to solve that. I did not use a calculator. I'd like you to try one. Multiple properties. See what you can do with this one. Go for it. All right, well, you may have done it a different way than I did, but here's the way I would do it. The first thing I would do is I would use the associative property, and I would take and group 17 and group the 17 and the 33, and I also used the commutative property at the same time, so I moved it and rewrote it. I put these compatible terms together. All right, next thing, well, I knew that that was 50. Then I took and I used the associative property, and then I grouped these guys together because I knew that 38 plus 2, they were also compatible. I got 40 plus 50, 90. Slam bam, thank you, man. Right? What? You can use two properties at the same time? Sure you can. It's all addition. You can group them how you want. You can move the numbers around. All right, you're in charge. Yeah, but look at this cool problem. I'm just going to distribute it. The distributive property is going to have a multiplication out front like 50 times something, and sometimes they have that dot, sometimes they don't. But they're going to have a plus or minus sign inside here. Don't confuse this. This is not the distributive property. This is just straight multiplying. Okay? So, how would you solve it? Well, let's think about this without a calculator. First of all, I would write it like this because I think this is simpler. Okay? Then, I would actually take the parentheses out because I think it's even simpler without the parentheses in. Okay? So now I'm down to this. Now, I'm going to probably take and use the associative property and the commutative property, and I'm going to take and flip that 4 over there and do 50 times 4, which is going to give me 200, and then I can take the 200 times 7. I got the com property in here too. Sorry. And again, I used two properties at the same time, associative property and the commutative property, to solve that bad boy to get the 1400. All right, your turn. Use the properties, don't use the properties. If you use the properties, you probably don't need to use a calculator. Just two problems. Go ahead and do it. Alrighty then. I know you're dying to hear me sing. I had to come down here in the basement by myself so I wouldn't wake the family up. Who are these dudes and what do they have to do with this lesson? Well, it's Kool and the Gang. Or as this German girl I met on a train in 1985 said, it's Kool and the Gang. Anyway, what do they have to do with this lesson? Had this monster hit 1980 called Celebration. I think I was a sophomore in high school. I was a sophomore for the first time then. Yeah, it's a long story. Anyway, celebration time, come on. It's a celebration. Except this song here tonight, you can sing evaluation time, come on. It's evaluation. Come on, you want to sing it? All right, you can probably turn it off now before your parents have to pay for therapy. Have a great evening. Bye. Well, they're Kool and the Gang, and back in 1980, I think I was a sophomore the first time. Yeah, my first year as a sophomore. Anyway, these guys were awesome. Had a huge, massive hit called Celebration. Celebration time, come on. It's a celebration. Okay, yeah. Anyway, I was pretty cool with my boombox and stuff. What does that have to do tonight? We can all sing it. Evaluation time. Come on. It's evaluation. All right, you better turn off the video right now before your parents have a big therapy bill to pay. Thanks for listening. Have a good evening. Welcome back. Hopefully you got your pause problems and ticket show done all right. Without looking at the definitions, can you tell me what the distributive property is? How about the commutative property? How about the associative property? My guess is that you probably got one or two of them right, but not all three. The distributive property allows us to take and rewrite things like 3 times a sum of 2 plus 3 and write that as 3 times 2 plus 3 times 3. Or we could take this and rewrite it that way as well. it's a valuable property. The associative property allows us to group multiplication and division. When you have a string of numbers you're adding or multiplying, you can group them however you want. You can move the brackets around or the parentheses. Commutative property allows us to move the order around of numbers when we have a string of numbers that we're multiplying or adding. All right, let's see if you can use some of those properties or not use some of them to solve some equations. So take a look at these 4 guided problems. You don't need to write these down. I'm just going to do them for you. I look at this problem, and I'll be honest with you, straight up, I don't use any properties. I can see that this 4 plus 5 is 9, and 3 times 9 is 27. Some people look at it, and they may see, well, I'm going to do 3 times 4, and I'm going to do 3 times 5, so that's 12 and 15, that's 27. Here I've rewritten it. It doesn't help me to rewrite it. I can do this faster. But take a look at this problem here. On this one here now, I know 1,000 minus 50 is 950, but I don't know what 7 times 950 is. However, if I distribute it, I know that 7 times 1,000 is 7,000. I know that 7 times 50 is 350, and I can do this in my head. I can subtract 350 and get 6,650 in my head. It worked out for me that time, using the distributive property to rewrite it. This one here, looking at it, right away I see these compatible numbers here. So I'm going to take and I'm going to commute this guy, and I'm going to group using the associative property and get 4 times 25, which is 100, times 32, which is 3,200, just like that. Looking for those compatible numbers. Same thing over here. This time I don't need to use the commutative property because I'm just going to regroup. Just take the 6 plus 14 and do that first and get the 20. Add the 17 in, you got your 37. So this is the way, some examples of how you can use properties or not use properties to solve problems. Let's go ahead and have you try a few problems on your own. I'll have you try 8 problems. So down in the bottom left-hand corner of your page here, I want you to put these problems here. Let's just go ahead and try it. Pause and try these 8 problems on your own, kind of the same way I did. All right, let's see if you can do these without a calculator with me if you didn't get them finished. Well, here this is going to be 10. 10 times 6 is going to be 60. So I didn't need to use a property there. This one here, ooh, some people don't know that 200 minus 50 is, or that that's 150, what that is times 5. So I'm going to do it this way. Here's 1,000. This is 250. 1,000 minus 250 would give me 750 there. It's the same thing as 5 times 150. This one here, I'm not going to use the property. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 times 50, that's going to give me 500. This one here, I'm definitely going to use the property. So here's my 12,000 here, and then here's 10 times 12, that would be 120, so that'll be 12,120. These ones here, ooh, definitely properties. I can move these two guys together and call that 30 plus 22, so I can commute and use the associative properties there, and I got 52. These two here, these are compatible, so I could say this is 80 plus 15, so I can use both the commutative and the associative properties there. That's 95. This one here, let's see, how are we going to do this? I guess I'm probably going to do, for this one here, I'm going to do 5 times 40 is 200. 200 times 8 would be 1,600. I don't know where that one came from. Whoever read this drank his chemistry set last night. And if you could think about it this way, you could think about 8 times 5 is 40, and then you got 40 times 40 would be 1,600. And then this one here, I'm definitely going to move that 4 over there, make it 25 times 4, and then that would be 100. 100 times 12 is 1,200. So you can really quite easily do those problems without a calculator by using the properties. And that's kind of the whole gist of the lesson tonight. I'm just going to take and show you that this sheet is here so that you can come back to it. You'll probably want it for some portions of the worksheet. This is the worksheet we're going to do here. It's attached to this video. We're going to do the we're going to do the even numbers. I'm going to have you export this document, the PDF, attach the assignment into Notability, do the even number ones right on there, take a screenshot of that, then upload it to this video. Hopefully that won't be too much trouble, but you can ask if you need help with that. Let's take a look at what you're going to be doing in these various sections. So I'll do some of the odd problems here. So here in this one, you're using the distributive property to evaluate each question? Well, I'm going to rewrite this and call this 4 times 5 plus 4 times 7. Here's 20 and 28. Gives me my 48. Same thing over here. It's just kind of a distributive property backwards. Here's my 2 times 10. Here's my 2 times 8. 20 plus 16, 36. They like putting the number over there just to throw you off. The commutative property allows you to just take and move that 2 right back over there. Right? Oh, that's all they did. They're just trying to mess with you. In this section here, you're going to be naming the properties. So this one here, we have 7 plus a quantity of 6 plus t, or the sum of 7 plus 6 plus t. You know what? Let me look at this. 7, 6t, 7, 6t. All we did was move the brackets. This has got to be the associative property. This property here, 0 plus x equals x. Oh, shoot. What is that property? Here's where you might want to go back and just take a look quickly at that. Let's see. 0 plus 0 plus 0. The identity property of addition. Identity property of addition. That's right. If you add nothing to something and it doesn't change its identity. The identity property of 0. Actually, I believe it's the identity property of addition or the identity property of 0 or addition. Either one. Okay? All right. Let's go back to that sheet. See what else we got. And, oop, I didn't click in my answers here. Sorry about that. Every time I leave the page, we lose them. I should have gone back to the identity page. Identity property of addition. There we go. Associative property. This one here, 17. Ooh. In this section here, we want to use one or more properties to rewrite each expression as an equivalent expression that does not use parentheses. Well, I can just say 7 times 5 is 35, and it's really 35x because I just leave the x there, 35x. It's a little algebra there. We're going to be working on that in the fall. This one here, well, I can just group and do 7 plus 3 first, so I could really just say that that's 10 plus t. This one down here is a little more complicated. I'm going to slide myself up so I got room to project your answer here. Well, you can take and say 3 times h gives you 3h. You can say 3 times 2 gives you 6. So you have 3h plus 6. And you still have this minus 2h. Now you've got 3 positive h's here, and you've got 2 h's here. So 3h minus 2h would just leave 1h left, and then you have the 6. This is the kind of algebra type of combining expressions using the distributive property that we'll be working on in the fall. Just give you a little flavor of it. All right, so you go ahead and do the even ones all the way down through 26. The only problem I don't like is 25, and you're not going to be doing that one. So we are in good shape. I'll go ahead and slow this down, and just in case some of you can't figure out how to put it into the into Notability, you could write it into your notebook. I'll make the problems big so you can see them. Here's the first group. And here's the second group. Okay. All right. Take a look at your answers for that. I've highlighted them to make them a little bit simpler. Just one you can't see. I'll slide down in a minute. Property down here. This was kind of a tough one. Distribute, that's 4a. 4 times 4 is 16. Yeah, that's a little bit of that algebra. This one here too. So this would be 8y. And you got minus 40. You also got this other y over here. So you have 8 positive y's and you have this other y. There's your 9y. Just pushing the envelope a little bit with you. All right. Sounds great. You are going to be ready for your quiz. Make sure you upload this sheet along with your ticket work and your pause problems. Here it is right up here. Upload this as well as the other sheet to this video. Thanks so much for listening.